Welcome back, everyone, to the Happy School podcast, where we discuss what it takes for all kids to be happy in school, because right now that's not really the case for everyone. I'm your host, Katharine Hsu. Today, we are going to talk about literacy programs, both in school or in your home if you're homeschooling. So I want to talk about this because we have sort of an obsession with this topic right now. I see news articles, Facebook groups, parents asking about which is the best curriculum that they should get for their kids. I see news articles about how certain curriculum is not good for our kids and we've been using the wrong ones. There's even a podcast called Sold a Story where it discusses how one curriculum has been selling a story of what this works for literacy and another literacy program they believe is better. I have been trained in a lot of these literacy programs, and so I'm here to talk about my opinion about it. This is something that I work with a lot of kids in literacy and helping them become successful. A lot of the kids are neurodivergent kids who come to me with experiences at school where they haven't really felt seen or understood or successful, but they come to me and they've been successful. So what literacy program do I think is great for kids? Which one should you buy? And the answer is, I don't think you should ever commit to any particular curriculum. You need to commit to your child. You need to learn what your child's personality is like, learning style, understand how learning works, and then pick parts of one curriculum and another part of other curriculum and customize it for your child. In the classroom, that is very hard because you have 20 students and it's exhausting to do that. Back in the day, as in the classroom, I had no energy at the end of the day after all the emotional needs of children and the stresses of meetings and expectations in the school to come up with a lesson that's very creative and custom for all kids. So a curriculum is sometimes nice because you could just open it up and say, okay, next week I will teach blank. However, even though that is the easiest thing to do, that is not the best thing for any child unless your child fits in the box of what these curriculums are expecting. Like your child can sit there, listen, memorize, and follow directions, and you just understand it exactly. You're from the same culture as the people who made the curriculum and it works. That is possible, but a large majority of the population is not like that, right? So what do you do? In the school situation, we need to start reconsidering the number of students that should be in a class. And I know that staffing becomes a challenge, but having been part of meetings with admin team discussing staffing, there are too many staffing outside of the classroom to assist with general ed classroom situations. We have literacy specialists, ESL specialists, special ed teachers, teacher assistants. We have staff to just support gifted and talented. And my philosophy is we should be learning all different learning profiles as an educator. If you go to the doctor and there's 25 patients in the room, you guys are all coughing, you're not feeling well. The doctor is not going to say, everybody gets this prescription and this is how you're going to all get better. It's not going to work because not everybody's going to get better that way, right? We probably would assume that doctor is being lazy, because that's not the expectation we have for doctors. We expect doctors to be able to customize their practice for us and our needs. Sometimes the doctor even asks me what allergies I have with medicine so that he or she can specifically pick the right medicine for me, right? So if we have that expectation for doctors, it's interesting to me that we don't have this expectation for educators. When we bring our students, our children, to an educator and we say, hey, please help them. Essentially, please provide them a remedy, right? And we don't expect them to customize that remedy or a lesson to that child. I think that's really interesting. Those two truths exist today. And then we wonder, why do we not respect teachers? I don't think we have really high expectations of what we want our children to be treated in education. So even in homeschooling, I know that is a huge task. I hear from a lot of the homeschool families that I work with, it's exhausting. I can't even imagine every single day trying to figure out what to do. But your child is worth something a lot more customized than a generic curriculum. They are like no other person in this world. And so the way they learn, their interests, what motivates them as a learner, Those things are really special and we should adapt to that. There's been this debate with Lucy Cochrana's curriculum. Taught it for a long time. It's a curriculum that helped me grow up as a teacher. It helped me love the way of teaching writing, understanding that writing is this creative process and all these strategies. It definitely helped. I can also see, though, how a lot of kids, I gave them strategies that were not specific to decoding each word. And therefore, they were not able to pronounce and decode words as fast as I think that they should have. So instead, I do use a lot of phonics-based lessons where I teach reading based on each individual sound rule or spelling rule for kids. But I don't do it lockstep to those kind of programs because I notice that some kids, they learn really quick and I don't want to go at a slower pace for them. Or some kids, it doesn't work for them. And I realize I need to come up with something totally outside of the box that really works with this kid's brain. For example, I had a student who I was teaching the regular way, hand gestures with sounds, and I realized they are not able to remember the first two letters in a word and blend it with the last letter. And so I had to start creating totally different strategies where you cover the consonants, you have them say the vowel sound, and then you reveal the first consonant, blend that together, and I tell them to keep their mouth opened and then close it with the last consonant. This helped them, but this is not a strategy I found online. This is learning and taking time to understand how this child's brain works and creating a strategy that works for them. If I were lockstep into a curriculum, I wouldn't have been able to help this child the way that I have. I'm not some wizard or magician. If we commit less to a curriculum and program and we fight more for kids the way we are fighting for programs, is a lot of energy we're putting towards, we should be using this program. No, we should be using that program. What if we took all that energy and said, we should learn about each child and we should have PD where we understand learner profiles in schools instead of thinking of a curriculum. For PD, invite people who have ADHD or dyslexia and ask them, what helps you with learning? What was challenging for you? Understand their strengths and then develop strategies that would help someone like them to thrive. Then use that in the classroom for your kids. That is extremely meaningful work. Or if we don't have time for that, those of us who are making curriculum, can you make curriculum that you have done research on kids with ADHD, dyslexia, high functioning autism, creative thinking, and create a curriculum that welcomes these kids into the box instead of creating a box set curriculum where these kids need additional support? I really think we are centering the wrong thing here, because in my first podcast, we were just talking about how we are evaluating SMART, right? So if those who are successful in the real world are the ones who were getting 2.9 GPAs in school, then we did not center those kids and teach to those kids for them to become successful. So now that we have a chance to revise curriculum, can we center learning around the way these CEOs would have been able to learn? And I'm saying that because a lot of the CEOs and founders of companies that are very successful now, if you go do a quick search, you will notice that so-and-so has autism, so-and-so has dyslexia, so-and-so has ADHD. It's a lot of neurodivergent people who are leading our country in forward thinking and new inventions. And yet we are not teaching curriculum that supports any neurodivergent thinkers right now. So do we just expect that they're just going to figure it out? That's really not fair. I often wonder how many kids are out there who are as smart as Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, but they weren't succeeding in the box curriculum that we were giving them, and they didn't have anybody around them who told them you can still do it, and they end up taking their gifts towards a whole different direction, right? Or they just give up with school and they don't become successful. I think this obsession with programs and fighting for the right one, we're just focusing on the wrong thing. I think that everybody who's fighting for this really does care about what's great for kids. But I think we have gotten so into wanting to convince the other side that we're losing a lot of energy and time we could be invested on making curriculum that is more in tune with supporting every single child. And that means kids who have neurodivergent brains, those who are creative. It's not just one or the other. I think that if doctors were to act that way, we wouldn't respect them as much as we do today. Doctors provide a very custom service for us, and that's why we heal and we get better and we trust them. And I think we should do that in the education field where we provide a very custom service for kids. Yeah, this means we might need more teachers, but also there's a lot of staffing in school that are not being utilized. So we could have a lot smaller classes and teach everyone to be able to understand all kids. It's really weird to me that we would expect only a few percentage of teachers to understand neurodivergent learners, and we're assuming that the majority of people in the world are neurotypical, and that's not the case. For example, any kid that is misbehaving in your classroom, they're probably neurodivergent and they're not really understanding the way you're learning. They're trying to feel important and valuable. And so the only way they can do that is lashing out and misbehaving and getting some attention in class. If you have a child who has a learning disability, they probably also have a learning ability and a strength and a superpower. Are you noticing that? I think that if we had curriculums that really highlighted different kinds of learners, we would be able to solve a lot of the problems in schools. All right, that's my soapbox for today. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love for you to subscribe and share this podcast with one other person. That way other people like you can find us. My goal is for us to start having conversations as a community in order to improve schools so that all kids can be happier in school. And I can't do that by myself. It's something that we have to do together and start discussing. So if you have any topics, questions, or you want to be on the podcast yourself, please email me at alltherightcolors@gmail.com, and I will see you next time. Bye.